So good morning everyone. Today's topic we are going to discuss about agile process model. Also one of the methodologies which we are going to see as part of agile process model is extreme programming. That is agile process model demonstrated so many methodologies. One of them is extreme programming. Extreme programming is one of the methodology that is proposed by the agile process model. So according to agile process model, there are certain concepts, certain rules that have been followed by the agile process model so that the methodologies can follow them. So let us see what is exactly an extreme programming as part of agile process model. Actually, agile process model approaches have been developed in 90s, and it has been developed because of the documentation which has been used in the previous process models to overcome them. So to avoid documentation driven process models, the agile process models will be overcoming that problem which has been used in the previous models. So there are some common principles which have been followed or proposed by the agile process model, that are: the working software is the measure of the progress. So what do you mean by this? So to measure the progress of a project, it is a working model. What do you mean by this? It means that a blueprint will be a sample working model will be developed based on the first initial requirements. So that is that will decide the progress of the project. So next point or next principle which is proposed by agile process model: software should be delivered in small increments. So what do you mean by this? According to agile process model, the software will be delivered in small increments. It is nothing but uh, the development will be done in small pieces of code, and we will be keep on adding the increments to it. So let us say that there will be a small piece of code that will be extended with various features which have been proposed by the customer. Based on that requirements, again there will be a small increment will be developed, and after that again customer needs some more improvement, so we will be keep on adding to the actual project so that it can be integrated properly. So software should be delivered in small increments. Next, even late changes should be allowed. What do we mean by this? Even late changes should be allowed as part of agile process model. So let us say that after completion of certain module also, the customer is allowed to give the requirements, and it can be applicable to the agile process models. Next, prefer face-to-face communication over documentation. See, there should be a proper communication between the customer and the team who is developing the software. So there should be some proper communication regarding the documentation. So what should be part of the documentation? As I said, documentation uh, is not followed as part of agile process model mostly, but there will be a sample documents will be there. So small documents will be there so that it can be understood for the later stages. So for that, there should be a proper communication between the customer and the team members, those who are developing the software. And there should be a continuous feedback and customer involvement is necessary. Next principle is that there should be continuous feedback. Let us say that you created one sample piece of code, you delivered to the customer, and the customer will be using that one. And if there are any problems, you will be asking the customer to tell the problems which you are facing. So based on that, there will be some more improvement will be added to that. So this is a continuous feedback and customer involvement is necessary is the next principle. And a simple design. There should be a simple design that should be followed. There will be no complexity in understanding the design. The design should be very simple and clean. And one more thing, the delivery time of the project should be decided by the team, those who are involved in the development. So the development team will be deciding when this delivery will be made. So dates will be fixed by the delivery department, that is development team. So these are the certain principles as part of agile process that should be followed by different methodologies. One of the methodology which we are going to see is extreme programming. Apart from extreme programming, there are other methodologies which are also available in agile process model. According to our syllabus, we are only discussing the extreme programming as the methodology. So let us see what kind of things are available in the extreme programming methodology. Many agile, according to extreme programming is denoted as XP. Don't confuse yourself. XP is nothing but Windows XP. Don't assume that one Windows XP. XP stands for extreme programming. Okay. So many agile methodologies. What do you mean? Before we get into the details of methodologies of extreme programming, let us know what is agile, the meaning of agile. Agile is nothing but quickly, the fast movement that is required. So when you are developing a project or a software with the approach called as agile process model, so that you can develop it very fastly, within no time you can deliver the product to the customers. So that is what the agile meaning. So let us go into the details of methodology that is called as extreme programming. So one of the methodologies which is proposed by the agile is extreme programming, and it is most popular among the other methodologies. So initially the extreme programming starts with the user stories, where short descriptions of user needs will be there. What do you mean by user stories? Stories are nothing but the requirements which will be discussed with the development team by the customer. So we will be denoting it as stories. So what does the stories contain? The description of the needs. Okay, what the customer needs are there, they will be part of these stories. And one more thing, here the details are not included. What do you mean by this? See, the customer will tell some requirement, but we will not get into the details, full details into it. We will be assuming the overview of it. Based on that, there will be separate cards will be designed. Separate cards will be designed. And after that, those cards which have been prepared based on the stories which have been given by the customers, those cards will be placed one after the other and they will be combined so that it will form a structure. It will be given as a design department and given it to the design departments. Based on those stories, the design will start. So what are these cards? Cards are nothing but, here we can say it as class responsibility collaboration cards. CRC is nothing but cyclic redundancy check is one more concept which is available in other subject, but here CRC card is nothing but class responsibility collaboration cards. So what do you mean by this? This is a card specially designed based on the stories which have been given by the customers. So based on certain stories, an overview will be developed. That overview will be designed into one card. So stories may contain so many points. So all those points will be gathered in the form of cards, and all the cards are placed one after the other. So based on those cards preparation, then those based on the preparation of the cards, the designs will be developed. So this is what the initial part of the extreme programming. Next, the overall process, how it is going to be done. So first of all, team estimates how long it will take to implement a user story. So whatever stories which have been received by the team, by the customer, they will be estimating how much time it will need to prepare a rough picture of it. Estimating such kind of a things, and after that they will be giving a release planning based on the estimated time which is prepared on the requirements in the form of cards. So after that, release planning is done, which contains defining stories, which stories are to be built in which release. So what do you mean by this? It is nothing but the stories are nothing but the needs which have been given by the customer. So based on the needs, they will be prioritizing some of the needs, so that they will be selecting the needs which are more important. They will be grouping one into one unit. Then they will be starting a release date for it and planning for it. So that is what happening here. Release planning is done based on the stories which are to be built based on the needs stories, release dates. And one more thing, frequent and small releases encouraged. It means that whatever dates which have been proposed by the team, they will be in very frequent. So it means that it may take 1 week or 10 days. After 1 week, there will be one more increment will be done. So small releases will be there. And after that, there will be some kind of testing will be done based on the stories. Before coding, testing will be done. Testing is nothing but not actual testing will be done. Test cases will be developed. So what happens if we do this thing? What happens if we do go for the other approach, other needs? So they will be drawing some kind of test cases. Based on those test cases, they will be you progressing to the testing. Okay, that is what it is mentioning. Acceptance tests also built from the user stories used to test before the release. So before releasing the plan, you have to draw the acceptance test, that is test cases. And after that, if any bug, let us say that if some kind of a problem encountered in the acceptance test, they should be fixed before the next release. So it is mentioning that if there is any problem while acceptance test which is built from the user stories, then that will be fixed before the next release date. So with this small releases approach, we will be going further with the design concepts. So here we will be going through the development of the stories, development of the planning which has been designed from the stories, that will be done in the terms of iteration. Iterations starts with the planning, in which stories to be implemented are selected. First of all, which are more important, that will be chosen first, and the details of the story is obtained during the development and implemented. So what happens here? Details of the story is obtained during the development, not at the initial phase. So overall, all the details will not be gathered at the time of initial requirements, but here at the time of development, all the details will be gathered and they will be implemented. And one more thing, failed acceptance tests of the previous iterations are also fixed. It means that acceptance test, if it is failed, then it has to be fixed before the next iteration has been released. before the next release date will be announced. So this is the overall process. So first of all, user stories will be gathered, and after that there will be a planning of the releasing based on the stories. First of all, they will estimate the time, and then the planning will be done, and after that iterations will be developed. After iterations have been developed, acceptance test will be done. If there is any problem during the acceptance test, then again it is going back, and after that iterations will be fixed. That is, if there is any problem in the acceptance test, then again they will be fixed before the next release. So this is what happens with the overall process of extreme programming. So whatever they have been released, they are in terms of small releases. So what does this iteration, what does this iteration will contain actually? So as we are saying here, iteration is part of this overall process, but what exactly there in the iterations? So iterations has some unique practices like pair programming. Pair programming is nothing but if any programmer is involved in developing the software, so there will be there will be other programmer combined together so that they can be called it as pair programming. So next, automated design of the code, there will be unit testing will be done on each part of the iterations, and there will be simple solutions will be gathered, and also refactoring for improvements, improving the designs when the need arises. So what do you mean by this? Solutions will be there, simple solutions will be given to that problem which has been addressed by proper addressing. Let us say that we can say refactoring for improving is nothing but if there is any problem in finding out solutions of particular issues, then again we are fixing them. So that is called as refactoring for improving the design when the need arises. And one more thing, frequent integration is needed because we are developing the software in terms of small releases. So small releases or small increments. So what happens here is with the approach of increments, what happens here is a small, let us say that we have a smaller piece of code initially. After a certain period of time, there will be some more requirements will be added to it. So what happens here is you should not disturb the previous content. You have to adapt. You have to mix up the new features so that it cannot disturb the previous contents of it. So integration testing is also done here. Integration is nothing but clubbing all the units into one. So that is what the part of the iterations. So first of all, user stories will be gathered based on the release plans. Iteration plan will be decided. In iteration plans, we'll be gathering the details of the user stories, all the details, and after that, creating small parts. Small parts that is based on the small parts, they will be testing when the cases will be drawn. After that, the integration will be done. Then acceptance test will be done. So this is as part of the iterations. Inside iteration, this is all part of iteration which has been done. So it is not. So we are getting into the last topic of this unit, that is project management process. So what happens here in this project management process? So whatever we have discussed until now, there are different types of process models through which we can develop a particular software. So after developing or before developing or some kind of during the development also, we have to monitor so many things. So there is a process called as project management process. So here, when we discuss about development process, it is dividing the development execute this project management process efficiently, it must allocate resources properly, manage them, monitor, take corrective actions. So before the development starts, the development process starts, the development is divided into several phases. So based on the software project, you must allocate the resources and manage the resources and monitor the progress and take corrective actions regarding the development. And also, these are all part of the project management process. And one more thing, project management process is an essential part of it. Let us see what are the phases which have been divided as part of project management process. They are, first of all, planning, second, as we know, planning is the key activity that produces a plan, and it is a base for monitoring the planning. So planning is the first point. It is a key activity. So in planning, there are several issues are to be considered. We will be discussing the planning phase in the second unit. So until now, up to this point, we are saying that it is an important activity to produce a plan. Based on that, monitoring will be started. So planning, it is done before the project begins. What are the key tasks and where the planning is needed? That is regarding cost and schedule estimation, planning will be needed. Regarding staffing, monitoring and risk management plans, quality assurance plans, and so on. Later, there are several issues to be. As I said, planning is a separate topic which is discussed under the second unit also. So we will see all these issues, how the planning will be going according to the cost and schedule, staffing, monitoring, quality. So all these issues will be discussed in the coming classes. So let us see the second point, which is part of project management process. So what happens here is it is controlling the monitoring and controlling all the key parameters like cost, schedule, and risks, and they will be taking necessary actions regarding if anything happens. If something happens, they will be controlling all those things. So next, termination analysis is performed, then the development process is over. The basic idea of this termination analysis to analyze the perfection of the process and what are the lessons which have been learned from the development. That is, if there are some errors are there, based on that errors, what we have been, how post-mortem analysis. So based on the completion of the development process, the termination analysis will be learned. So this is what happens with the project management process, that is planning, monitoring and control. So monitoring and control takes time because it has to be monitoring all the development strategies which have been used. It has to concentrate on the process models, how they are working on, what are the tools, what are the resources. So after that, there will be a termination analysis. Then the management process will come. This is about development process. So this is a summary of what we discussed here on the development process and project management process models, and how they are following. So these are the issues which are part of first unit. So in the coming classes, we are going to see different aspects of this. So planning, the second phase, planning will be done. First unit is discussed about all the issues. So what are the approaches? how the software problem will be addressed. So in the next two classes onwards, we will be discussing the second unit. So this is all for today. Thank you. Thank you one and all.